Okay,
Yeah, tough.
It's not, but you're pretty much holding that.
we are now screening.
Okay, I guess we can call the REAC meeting to order, and I'll take roll. Mark Geller, Raj Amar,
Here.
Tim Riley. We have no action items, we have no new business, we have no old business, the treasurer's report. They sound like a broken record. We just have a couple of the bills that we normally do of, compliance and also just the, our monthly bookkeeping. Those are only 2 invoices. And I guess if there's no comment on that, someone might make a motion to accept the financial report.
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay. And with that, I will read, by the way, just assume there was no business. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about, about the REAC? And, all right, then I'll call the meeting to order at 11:06. There's no action items, no new business, no old business. The board reviewed and approved the treasurer's report and the motion to adjourn. Okay. Okay, and that was painlessly the REAC meeting. Okay, IDA. I guess we'll call that to order. I'll call the roll. Mark Geller, Raj Amar,
Here.
Tim Riley.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's at 11:09. Okay, we have the authorizing resolution. We held a public hearing. Heidi held a public hearing. This was earlier this week.
Tuesday, no public comment.
No public comment. Again, this is the company that is the artificial intelligence company that's going into the data bank facility over in Orangeburg. Dan is counsel. I think that's going along. Like I said, it's sales tax only. We've already put that, they're already engaged with our labor folks, worked through a couple question marks on that, but we've worked through it, and I don't think there's going to be any issues with that. And I guess with that said, we have an authorizing resolution.
I can see it, not at the financials.
There should be a link in the agenda.
No, it says authorized resolution, but it's not highlighted. I went to action items.
Go to the bottom. It's one of those links.
No, it's not one of those links. It's going to be in the, I will make copies. So you can see it.
No, it's okay.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
So this is, we're just approving it, right?
Yeah, we had the inducement. This is just the authorizing resolution.
600 million?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're taking 4 out of 5 of the suites in that building.
Yeah, the data center.
That's the one that we had at the meeting last time.
Yeah, they came and talked about it.
And yeah, it'll be interesting if they don't have a power issue down the road. Because I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's been a lot of talk.
You brought that up too last time.
Yeah, there's a lot, AI, when they come into a data center, uses 3 times as much power as a normal data center, which is fine. It's good for our drama, but obviously they've addressed it. These people are all professionals. They know what they're doing, so.
So, okay, so if, I guess with that said, if there's no questions about the project,
I'll make the motion.
okay, can I have a second, Mark? Okay. Okay, I'll call the roll. Mark Geller, Raj Amar,
Yes.
Tim Riley.
Yes.
Okay. Our next order of business is Juanio had, we had discussions with Juanio. They are coming to us and they're going to present today about requesting that we partner as along the vein of what we did with BOCES. They're going to be requesting that we provide, I have to use the word, it's not a grant, partnering with them to underwrite $500,000 to expand their workforce development efforts with the folks. They refer to the people that use Juanio services as consumers. These are people that with special needs that are, it's a very specialized world as far as the training and the type of nature of things that, put these people into the workforce and have the ongoing support network. I don't want to go into detail too much because they're going to come in and talk about Juanio for you, those who aren't that familiar with it, their programs and their specifics to their REAC. Couple notes on this that just so you can maybe anticipating questions you may have. With the BOCES one, it was capital investment, it was stuff, it was equipment, it was things to repair cars, it was cosmetology, it was materials, fixtures, equipment, things like that. This is more operating. This would be more for salaries and things like that, which we can do as well. But the key thing is, and this is all subject to the board approving. I'm just giving you the outline. There's no sorry, can't do it element to this, what we're going to hear today, unless you choose not to. There's no legal reason why not. There are some things to be worked through. I don't want to soft pedal that. But again, it wouldn't be a grant. Again, this is just like BOCES. It's a partnership. The structure, if you were to go forward on this, would be, and my attorneys can correct me if I'm off base a little bit, that we're almost outsourcing to them the operation of programs that will develop the workforce. That's simplifying greatly the mechanics of it, but that's almost as compared to, because that would fall within our mission to partner with them and outsource almost as a third party vendor to operate it based on their capabilities to develop the workforce. If there's any questions or clarification. Excuse me.
How's it funded?
It's not. This is all they're going to come in and talk about. They are distinctly handicapped on this program. They'll talk about what they're doing currently, but what they're going to ask is for funding that can allow this program to become much more robust.
Want to let them?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But
We should find out.
Yeah.
When we have-
so they get various funding
I know
sources.
Why do they?
I know that we funded them. but-
They don't have
this idea.
I know
They simply can't get enough funding to meet the demand. That's it.
So our promoter helps you get more funding, or?
It would be like as part like we did with BOCES. We would fund this,
Oh, we fund.
we would fund it out of our,
Okay,
that
yeah.
consistent with what we do in BOCES. So with that said, why don't we call them in and, like I said.
Good morning.
Should be chairs for everyone.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for coming and welcome. And this is the idea of the board and our councils and our staff. I don't know if we would need to, most of us, or we can introduce ourselves if you'd like, and we'll ask you to do the same. So start then.
Sure, Schroeder, IDA Council.
Diana House, Chief Communications Officer, Juanio. Molly Jabot Griffin, Foundation Director at Juanio.
Randy Rios Castro, CEO for Juanio.
Stacey Kantrowitz, Director of Community Employment Services at Juanio. Bridget C., Administrator of IDA.
Heidi Van Tiver, Operations Manager, IDA.
Mark Geller, board member.
Dan Birmingham, IDA Council.
Steve Porth, Executive Director of the IDA.
Tim Riley, board member.
Roger Long, board member.
So I guess, I kind of teed it up a little bit for the board, so maybe we'll leave it to you guys to kind of do as we discussed as far as how you want to handle discussing this.
Sure. So first, thank you for inviting us here today. We're really excited about the potential partnership with the IDA. When we came to the breakfast last week, we were fascinated about the possibilities of working with you for a number of reasons. Juanio's been around since 1947. We've been a member of the Rockland community, and we're also in Westchester. We touch a little bit into the Bronx and Orange counties as well. And our primary focus is to provide lifespan services to people with developmental disabilities, mental health challenges, and chronic medical conditions, and we do that in a variety of capacities. throughout their lifespan. So basically birth through end of life. And one of our departments is community employment services. And really we're all about, focusing on the independence of the people that we're supporting, their well-being and equality, and making sure that their lives are as rich as possible. And one of the ways that we do that is through community employment services. We serve about 600 people annually in that department. We've, over the last 25 years, created well over 5,000 jobs for people. And the people that we're placing in these positions, their average retention rate is about 7 years. So we've had really good success with our partnerships with a multitude of businesses around Westchester and Rockland counties. So we're really excited about this. They provide very comprehensive supports through vocational training, job development, job counseling, and retention supports. So Stacy's going to talk a little bit about our proposal, and we'll go from there.
Again, thank you everyone for hosting us today and for inviting this conversation. This is a wonderful opportunity. We're very excited about this potential partnership. So we're seeing this partnership as a way to potentially help as many as 100 individuals in our community with disabilities to either ready themselves for employment, to build the foundation, to be ready to get into the world of employment, to obtain new jobs for them, or to save their jobs if their jobs are in jeopardy and they need support to sort of level the playing field so that they can perform to industry standard. So would it be helpful for me to sort of give an overview of what our services look like? I know you all have the proposal in front of you.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, just kidding.
We're gonna give it a steer.
Okay, we're making them wait. So we work with people with all different types of disabilities, and we train them in soft skills. Some of them come to us, have never had any experience in the world of work. So just working with them and teaching them what does the world of work look like, how to interface with your supervisor, how to dress for work, teaching them hard skills as well as soft skills in different industries so that they have the skill sets they need to be the employee that an employer needs. And so we have to build the foundation before we build the house, right? If we had cracks in our foundation, we wouldn't go building the first floor, second floor, third floor on top of that house and expect to just put somebody into a job, right? We have to build the foundation and build the skills so that they could be successful. So we have one foot in the rehab world, doing that work with them to get them ready, working with them with interviewing skills, working with them on their resumes, things like that, and their training. And then, of course, we're interfacing with businesses. So we have relationships with approximately, at any given time, 200 businesses across Westchester, Rockland, Orange County, and northern New Jersey, and the Bronx. we're in a lot of places. Primarily, though, our biggest presence is in Rockland County, and across all industries. And so we really strive to build relationships with businesses. So we're not going into a business trying to develop an opportunity for one person. We're going into a business to get to know them, to develop a relationship with them and find out what their needs are. What do you do here? What are your highest need positions? What are the positions that you're routinely having trouble filling, not necessarily entry level? And then we're looking at our talent pool of people with disabilities, which is a largely untapped talent pool. People with disabilities have talent. It's 1 in 4 people in this country that you meet has a disability. They're not all visible. And so we're looking at not the disability, but the ability of the person and matching that to the needs of the business. So we pride ourselves on doing that well, because that's what's going to make it work, right? And we may have to put some things in place to level the playing field so that they're performing to industry standard. We may have to do some performance coaching. We may have to give them some extra training to turn them into that employee that the business needs. We may have to put some assistive tech in place to level the playing field. But if we've done all those things and we've matched their skills and interests well with the needs of the business, they're very successful. And what happens is oftentimes employers go, wow, they're my best employee. And then before they go advertising, they call us and they say, do you have another one? Like John, because he's great. And, you know, it's sort of surprising to some people, right? Because I think we often have this vision in our heads, you know, when we think of somebody with a disability working, we all sort of have that baked in image of someone with Down syndrome begging groceries at ShopRite. But it might surprise you to know that we place people in opportunities, meaningful work opportunities at all levels of employment. We've had a doctor in our program, the nurses, patient transporters, graphic designer. We had someone in the public defender's office. At one point, we had someone in the district attorney's office. And we have people bagging groceries at ShopRite and everyone in between. And of course, we have a lot of people in entry-level positions because we don't all start out in our dream job, right? We start entry-level and then work our way up in the world. So the majority of our jobs that we find are entry-level. But I just want to be clear that we're working with people of all types of disabilities and at all levels of employment in every industry. No industry is left out. So we see this partnership as an incredible opportunity to reach more of these folks. Some of them come to us with very high needs and they're not already tied to funding. They need help getting tied to funding. And, you know, unfortunately, getting tied to funding to pay for our services can sometimes take months, sometimes longer than 4 months. And if somebody needs help right now today to save their job or help them get a job because they can't put food on the table, you know, we would like to be able to help them quicker and bridge that gap. You know, sometimes we're going in and we're trying to do job saving. And the way that the funding is structured for supported employment, unfortunately, is that if someone is getting funded for the services that I'm describing to you from one particular funder, but there's a specialty service that they need that another funder provides due to their disability or the funding that is paying for their current services, they may be disqualified from that very important needed service that would help them succeed that they can't get. And so again, we're seeing this potential partnership as a way to bridge the gap to be able to get people what they actually need in the moment so that they can be more successful. So an example that I gave that you'll see in the proposal is, you know, let's say someone has autism and they're working, right? And they're doing well at their job. However, the challenge is that because they have autism, they may struggle with the social component at work, right? So they may not be able to read facial cues well for emotion, and they may miss what's going on. And so that may negatively impact their relationship with their supervisor, with their coworkers. They may not be able to send an appropriate email, right? And this may be starting to become a challenge where they could lose their job over it. They perform the job really well, but this piece is getting in the way. And let's say the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities happens to be paying for our services, but what they really need is a highly specialized service, pragmatic language communication coaching supports, which is only paid for through Access VR, but that would be considered double dipping because, you know, you can't have a case open with Access and OPWDD at the same time, but they need this service to keep their job. They're not going to be able to keep the job if they're not given the social playbook to learn how to communicate with their supervisor appropriately, how to advocate for their own needs appropriately in the workplace. And so again, you know, we're seeing this as a potential way to mitigate these issues so that we can jump in at a moment's notice and say, okay, we've got you, we're going to give you this service so that your job is secure and so that you can be successful and rise to the occasion and continue along their trajectory of independence, because that's what this is all about, right? Is to reach more people and to have more people be independent in the world and working. And we really see that as the center. We really see work as the center from which all things in a person's life can grow. You know, when someone gets a job, and hopefully one day a career, right? Because we like to see them move along the trajectory of success. Suddenly it's, oh, wow, maybe I could get a car now. Wow, oh, maybe I could get my own apartment. And then it's, oh, now I'm meeting people at work, and wow, now I have a social life. And then maybe they meet their significant other, right? So we really see work as the center from which all other things in a person's life can grow and flourish. And so we really believe in serving the whole person. And so that's the REAC side. And on the business side, like I said, we're really playing to the needs of the business and matching that person with the business. And as Randy spoke to, the 7-year job retention, although culturally that's changing in the world of business, with the younger generation now, they say, oh, you've worked at the same place for more than 2 years, what's wrong? Why haven't you gone somewhere else and gotten a higher paying job? But back in the day, excuse me, longevity was seen as loyalty and commitment to a business or an organization. And the 7-year job retention means something to businesses, because we all know that when we lose people in a business, it costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money in re-recruitment, retraining, right? And so 7-year job retention proves bottom line for business. And so it's a big selling point for us. And excuse me, and also because the person comes to the business with baked-in support from our team, so that it doesn't take time away from their supervisory team for training. That's another big selling point. So, any questions so far?
So, first of all, love your passion. God bless you. Beautiful passion.
Thank you.
One of the things the board would like to know is, where does most of your funding, besides private, because we've already spoken in the past, but besides private, where does the funding come from, other than private funders?
Right, so we do have contracts with the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, New York State.
Okay.
And access fee.
And Access VR. And we also work with the Office of Mental Health.
What is your annual budget, give or take?
50 million
50 million?
Yeah.
That's for the whole facility or
for
just?
the entire agency.
Okay, you don't
That
know what the
includes the
service.
For community employment services?
Yeah.
We're about 2.5, 3 million.
If you could probably, so say the request, like what would be the impact of the request of the funds you're asking us?
What are you gonna do with our money?
Yeah, which is probably a clear way of asking the question.
So we're seeing this as a way to help at least 100 individuals, roughly 25 to get them ready for the world of work. Again, building the foundation so that they can move forward, removing barriers so that they can actually get a job. We would like to create 25 new jobs for people with disabilities by working with businesses. And then we would like to save 50 jobs from being lost. And that's a big one because it's something that we see.
So to build on what Stacy was talking about, people come in, they apply for services, they may get approved by one of the 2 funding agencies, but then there's pieces missing. And so the value and impact of funding would enable us to be able to make a whole package for a person, not based on the limitations of government funding, but on what their actual needs are. And that's our whole mission, is all about promoting independence, equality for people with disabilities. And so that fits with our mission. And we feel that that is tremendous value that your dollars would bring to the workforce that's ready to work. And you'll see in our basic statistics, I mean, unemployment has gone down in recent years, but the rule of thumb is that unemployment for people with disabilities or special needs is twice that of the general population, right? So you have these people who want to work, they have the desire, they need these extra supports, they may get approved for, out of the 20 things they need, they get approved for 10, and oh, well, no, you can't have a case open here and a case open there. So that's where those dollars will come in and create tremendous value. So the proposal, the partnership proposal talks about the 100 people for 500,000 that we would tap into and utilize over 2 to 3 years. But there's additional opportunity for paid internships. We can create a paid internship program that would be outside of anything we already get funded for, that would be such a great opportunity for not only the employee, but for the business to try out the workers before they offer them the full-time position. So that's an additional, it's in here, 100 and something. 131,000. So you'll see on page 2, kind of the breakout. We conceived of this budget based on how, what the costs are for these types of services. So it's all tied to each of the outcomes. So new job development services would be the first amount from the first bullet, 167K. Job prep services, 110K, and then job saving, 224K. And then you'll see the fuller description that Stacy kind of went through of the variety of services. So those would be customized based on each individual person, what their need is, and matching them with the appropriate job. But that paid internship component, I just thought it would be really interesting for you to take that into consideration because it is such a great, I mean, I don't know about all of you, but I had internships when I was coming up in my career, and that was tremendous. And we've had some great success stories of individuals with internships, but to be able to offer a paid internship while they're learning would be invaluable.
Yeah, one of our interns actually that came to us, it fits nicely into the example that I was giving before, who came to us, he has autism. And when he first came to us and someone would say hello to him in the hallway, he wouldn't even say hello back. And he really needed that pragmatic language, that communication coaching, that specialized service. And so he worked with our specialist, and she just started working with him on the playbook. And she said, when somebody says good morning, you need to say good morning back. And he said, why? And she said, because it's socially expected. And this went on, and she had him look in the mirror, and she said, are you angry? And he said, no. And she said, your face looks angry. Try making this face, And so she just had to work with him through all of the things. He was working in clerical, and he was able to do filing really well, data entry really well, operate the copy machine, do scanning, all the things, but we couldn't have him working in a position where he would have phone duties, or where he'd be emailing, or where he'd be interfacing with the public because of these issues. Well, let me tell you something. After a little while with working with our specialist, by the end of that, he was answering the phone. He was sitting at the front desk as a receptionist, greeting everyone very pleasantly, and even had to handle some situations that even a seasoned receptionist might have found a little uncomfortable, and he did it with grace and ease and a smile. So it was incredibly transformative, and it gave him a really great experience where he learned so much and was then able to put that on his resume and then go and get a permanent job. And so, these are the kinds of things we're talking about.
We also put a lot of, we train a lot of individuals, and in some cases when we have open positions that are appropriate for them, we're hiring them. And so we also practice what we're hoping to get other business leaders to do, because we have people that have disabilities employed in multiple settings throughout both Westchester and Rockland. So.
You have a question, too?
Go ahead, Leo.
Yeah, just so you mentioned Westchester and the Bronx.
Yeah.
Would this funding source be for Rockland? Because
Yeah, this would just be for Rockland.
okay, so assuming this funding source, it would be strictly for Rockland and Rockland
Correct.
program. So this here is for Rockland.
Yes, correct. And so you'll see, just to kind of bring it home, because numbers tell the story. For the budget for the requested partnership, we're talking about 15,000 staff hours we'd be able to provide for supports that wouldn't be able to be provided otherwise. That's a huge number. And then the additional paid internship piece for your consideration as well would be for up to internships of 100 hours for the intern for up to 15 people. The internship cost is about $8,750 per person. And so that kind of gives you how it's all organized and where the dollars come in.
So what happens after 2 to 3 years? How do you get funding for the same project?
Gotta go look.
They come back here with cupcakes.
Yeah, wage sales and,
Correction in stone,
that's the challenge we really face because, yeah, and, you know, your group recognizes the economic impact of a program like this in a different way than, say, a private foundation where we're trying to sell, you know, the mission and the project too. Because to them, it's, you know, well, you get all this government funding, like, why can't you just work within the system? Well, the fact is, the system is inadequate. It's inadequate not only for this program, but for all the programs, and I'm sure you're well aware of this. I mean, we've had meetings on healthcare costs and, you know, how do you even break even? So it is inadequate. It's an inadequate system that does not allow us to fully meet the needs of all the people.
And it's very siloed, so they don't
Mhm.
cross over. As Stacy said, you can't take and some OPWD services and mix them with access BR services. They're completely separated, even though they're offering different components of service. You just can't intermingle them.
So hopefully if this pilot plan goes through.
Yeah.
At the end of the 2 or 3 years, whatever it is, you can find people for funding and so forth, but this
We would
is,
look for that, yeah.
this is the first step.
And
Yes.
also be able to present to the funders that, look,
It works.
we've done this, this is what's working and what we've been successful in doing. And by having that data collected, there's an opportunity there. And there's an opportunity to go to other funders and say, look, we've been really successful in doing this. This particular amount of funds has run out, but now we need more funding. And we've been successful, and these are the people we've been able to get employed and businesses we've been able to work with in the community, which are many.
Right, so-
25 individuals for new jobs, what would they do now without this funding?
Well, some of them struggle for a long time because there's not always funding attached to them. So as Stacy mentioned, if they're able to get some funding through OPWDD, but not get all the services that they need, they may not be able to be successful and get jobs.
Let me ask you a different question, and we've done this once before, which is actually pretty good. So we're not telling you this is not where you should use your funds, but isn't there like equipment that you can buy that actually funds can now? Like, for example, you might be wanting to buy equipment worth $1 million. I'm just giving an example. I don't know the story, right? And if the board assists you to get that equipment, will that extra funding help you continue on this program rather than you keep looking for this funding? It's just a question. So it's to better understand that, okay, we know that this program is good for 2 to 3 years, right? 2 to 3 years, either you're going to be back here or you're going to be back somewhere. And if we're in the position, I'm sure the board may not be against helping you further. But the question is there something that we can do that would actually improve your services by providing equipment? Like, for example, is, you know, let's look at the hospital. They have all these monitors, right? And the monitors get old and they get used and they get banged up, and then they have to go back and buy new ones, right? So is there something that this board can fund that would actually give you a bit more security? I'm not telling you that this money is to be used for that. I'm just telling you that, is there something that this way you always have funding for that program that you're looking to launch today?
So, I mean, there's always equipment we can use. One thing that we're right now sampling is this translation device. It's an ILA device that's on loan to us through the Workforce Development Board. So we haven't had it long enough to say that this will be successful, but it does translation, both multiple languages, and it does have a component to do ASL, American Sign Language. That would be helpful, but it's not going to help us to continue to provide employment services and make the connections with the businesses in the Rockland community.
So your goal is to make sure that the funding goes to help people.
Job creation.
The job creation
I think
and
job
the connection with businesses. So, you know, you all are bringing in a lot of businesses into Rockland County. We want to be a part of that collaboration with them because we have people that will be effective in their roles there in a variety of capacities. As Stacy said, we have people that are frontline, you know, cleaners up to doctors, and we can help to get them employed successfully through these supports, which would benefit the businesses coming into Rockland County.
It sounds like your ongoing need is the cost of the human assets
Yes.
for the
That's right.
training as compared to physical pieces of equipment, which I'm sure you have and can always need certain things for physical therapy and going on and on, but it's the human asset element of it that
Right.
is, and it sounds to me like, and I don't want to characterize it wrong, it sounds like one of the challenges that you have that never goes away is always looking for that funding down the road. It's probably an ongoing challenge that you.
That
That's
and
what
to
keeps it
supplement
going.
what we're not getting from government resources. So as many of you know, when you're working with government, and I'm sure Mark can attest to this, it doesn't fully cover all the services that you're providing. And then there's services that get forgotten because they don't neatly fit into the package that they've outlined for a particular program. So as Stacy mentioned, somebody that may need that pragmatic language, if they were enrolled in OPWDD, they're not allowed to get that under that particular funding stream, and you can't cross over the funding streams because much of what's happening is very siloed. So they haven't gotten to the point where they're crossing over these different government organizations to say, well, this is working well under Access VR. Why can't we bring that to the OPWDD side? This particular proposal will help us to hopefully bridge that gap and try to get them to fund it. But also in the interim, supplement what we're currently doing to really help people get jobs and help the businesses that are here that are desperate for workers.
You guys get one, sorry, go ahead.
Just more out of curiosity than anything else, do you have a conversion rate? Every person you take to the program, how many of them do you place and how many of them actually get placed into jobs?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So for example, in our youth internship program, our success rate is about 86%, which is quite high.
Yeah.
The statewide average for employment, I believe, is only like 53%, and we exceed that greatly.
What is youth, what's your definition of youth?
Right, so you have the WIOA definition, right? So we work with, depending on their funding, because it matters in this context. Through Access VR, we can start working with individuals at age 14, through age 21, under what they call potentially eligible group, and that's a younger cohort. And then through the traditional Access VR contract, those kids, it's 18 to 24. And so, and then with OPWDD funding, we can't really work with them until they're 18. Yeah, so 18 to 24 also.
And so this program caps out at the age of 24? Or you can work with older adults?
No, we can, they become adults,
Okay.
and we can work with them as adults.
Gotcha,
also.
okay.
Yeah, and all the services that we provide are available to all age groups.
Okay.
It's just, categorizing them.
So the
by
government
age.
funding comes from the federal side or the state side?
Oh, yes and yes.
And this funding wouldn't present any conflicts or any,
No,
at all, it just.
it's not supplanting the government funding, it's supplementing what they're not covering.
At the risk of maybe oversimplifying, it sounds like what you're requesting would certainly help 100 individuals that are the recipients of these services in placement, as you described. But those 15,000 hours, or if that's what I think, if I recall, that's the number, that would serve to create new jobs in some regard, expand hours of, like say, have somebody being a part-timer to a full-timer, things like those. So there's, as an economic development guy, I'm looking at it saying you're not only creating jobs at your facility, you're then creating jobs or maintaining jobs outside of those placement things. So it's actually,
Exactly.
from our perspective, it's more than just, more than 100 people. It's actually more than that.
And building
Right.
relationships with the business, which, we have a lot of businesses that we're working with that come to us because the people that we're supporting in those roles have been successful and they want to hire new people.
We also have businesses benchmark with each other, right? So if there's a business that we've been trying to partner with, in these ways to get folks with disabilities opportunities to work in their organization or their business. If there's a like business, right, that does something similar, where we've had great success, we invite them to benchmark with each other so that newer business can talk to someone who's done this work with us to say, what did that look like? What was that like for you as a business? What worked? What didn't work? How did you feel about that? And so, that's something that we do often because we have the relationships that we have, the reality is the relationships that we have with businesses, some of them exceed 2 decades. I mean, these are long time relationships where, in some cases after 50 job hires, I just stopped counting. I just stopped counting because it's just a routine, they come to us, we provide them with quality employees and they're satisfied. And so, but we're always looking to make new relationships. We're always, looking to expand and build new. We want everyone to understand the value of this because it's good for the business. It's good for the business.
And there's tax incentives to hiring people with disabilities.
What is the 15,000 staff hours that would be creating new jobs? Do you have a number there? How many new jobs you anticipate? Like how many new employees you would need to hire to run this?
That's a good question.
I would imagine probably 2 to 3 new jobs because this is over a 2 to 3 year period.
Okay.
Now, fortunately, I think also you have probably your list of companies you work with. I think one of the things that, regardless of your proposal, is the IDA, as you saw at our meeting, we work, I don't know how many projects we have now, 30, 40, 50 projects, I mean, a lot.
45. Yeah.
Plus, it seems like the momentum is building. And I don't think we've ever done a project where the company that received all these tax incentives we provide says, oh, we want to give back to the community. So we're always looking for ways to take advantage of that by making those introductions. And that would be something.
And we've had a lot of businesses that come in and do volunteer projects for us. They come in and like M&T Bank, for instance, they come in, they do a beautification project. It's a team building exercise for their staff and they're helping the community. We have Regeneron coming in to do a project on our nature path. Those are the types of relationships that we're building with them.
You deal with Tyra?
I'm sorry?
You deal with Tyra in M&T?
It was gone through Mary Devine through M&T.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a lot of relationships, contacts at banks and businesses and Regeneron, which is one of our projects. And, but again, I think that's, I have a couple mechanical questions, and again, anticipating questions that would arise if the board was going to go forward. Because this isn't our money per se, it's technically taxpayer money, and, say within the bounds that we could provide funding for, like, say, things that are economically oriented. But we answer to our masters too a little bit. We have the state ABO, the Authority's Budget Office, that we report our, for compliance purposes every year. And chances are they're going to say, they say, okay, we see you did X, Y, Z with, Joanio, and we need measurable results. We need something to say, okay, this is where that money went. You went a long way to providing that detail. Is that something that you'd be available to providing us, say, some reportable statistics on an annual basis so we can say, yes, this is the return on our investment.
Absolutely. We do that now with
Right.
Is it possible for you to put together a more detailed description in the sense that your proposal is to hire 7 more new people, et cetera, et cetera? Whatever you project, chances are you're not going to, accomplish. We understand that. But I think for our sake, it would be better to have a little more detail into where and how the money was exactly going to be spent. Okay, and for me, just me personally, the board, I would say it's going to be a 3-year period, not 1 to 2 to 3 years, because that gives the impression for somebody in Albany to look at it and say, well, did they get all this money and just run out and spend it?
Sure.
So, a more definitive plan in the sense of who you're going to hire, how you're going to hire them.
Sure. We could put that into measurable objectives.
Exactly. And if it's off, it's off. It's okay. It's just a projection of what we hope to do. That would make me feel a little more comfortable.
And we can report on, we've done quarterly reports or annual reports. We could do either.
Annual's fine.
Okay.
I usually have to call Steve every other day.
That I don't know if we could do.
No, that way, like I said, because when we have, we're our annual audits and things that we go through, you go through the same kind of, it allows for us to be able to say definitively, and it's funny with the state, they're very, with IDAs, they are very, very particular about what we do with our money. And this falls within the bounds of it. But again, having that backup to report.
Sure,
is
we're
something
quite
we're
used
most
to
interested
tracking all of our dollars spent.
Yeah.
in. Is there any other questions from the board or?
No.
And timing wise, if say in a perfect world, if the board said, okay, we're ready to go, how do you see the funding rolling out? And when do you see that need starting? Like, what's the ramp up period or the mechanics? If we said, okay, you got it, here's $500,000, how do you see that being implemented?
Sure, I think some of it could be tapped in immediately because of, just providing supports that aren't being provided. And then some of it will take some time to hire staff to do some of the other components of this. So, and then of course, the internships are all dependent on partnering with businesses and then finding people to do the paid internships so that we can,
So that funding would be kind of a rolling out,
Yes.
almost like a rolling process over time.
Would you want to see that too, Steve?
Excuse
Would
me?
you be able to see that too in terms of phases, phase one, phase?
You know, it may be an overview, but it's hard for you. I'm sure some of these are variables that are hard for you to project until you kind of know what
But you
you're
won't
talking
find the existing 25 that you want to, right, wasn't that the first number?
Yeah.
The 25 existing
Would
jobs
you
now,
want
so
it
that
to
would
be something that would start like, go on a calendar year, January 1, for simplicity? Like, I know we have to do like our CFR reporting and all that other stuff, which,
consistent.
to keep it
January.
consistent?
Right.
Does that make sense? And not that I want to tell you, not to use the money
And
tomorrow.
it's not gonna be a legal document, don't get us wrong, it's just in case we get audited, this is the plan,
Yeah,
this is the plan we're going by, that type of thing.
makes sense.
And again, I'm a little, not concerned, but the 1 to 3 years, I'd like to put a definitive 3-year period.
Yeah, I hear you.
And this is where we're gonna spend the money over the 3 years.
Okay.
And just as we work out the mechanics, if we were, would you be prepared to do this as a reimbursement instead of the money upfront for those salaries for that?
Sure.
Okay.
Does that work?
What frequency?
So we can do.
Not on an
Not an
annual
annual
basis.
basis,
challenging
no,
for us.
yeah.
But if it was done like,
Right, you can't
The
expect them to spend
turnaround
the
on that
money.
could probably be incredibly quick.
I don't know
I
if a
just
reimbursement
am wondering,
would work
I'm
with you, because
thinking
you don't
through
have the money to
mechanics.
spend.
well, that's what I'm saying, it would depend on, if you were talking like a month, maybe we could do
Very
that.
quick
If you were
turnaround.
talking a year, I don't know if we could do
We
that.
can discuss mechanics internally.
And turnaround is a problem.
I'm not sure if that structure's gonna work, but we can.
Yeah,
How
we
about
got-
this, how about if it gets approved? Then you come to us with a 6-month requisition of this is our intent to do the next 6 months, this is the funding we'll need.
Okay.
We give you the funding, you document how you spent it, and away we go.
Okay.
Work?
That's a lot easier for us, if
Yeah.
I'm cutting the checks a lot easier.
You could do that.
But, yeah, there's,
And the least amount of transactions in the booking makes things easier for not being audited.
You know audit world very well.
Yes, we're very
We
heavily
operate in that
regulated.
All day, every day.
Yes.
And the other thing too is, to your point, Raj, about the funding is you get a grant for, 1 year in government, right? So it's every year trying to come up with these programs that are funded, and then it takes years to disperse. But, that's kind of the environment that we're operating in, is constantly looking for money, either through government or private foundations. So it's hard, and individual, obviously, but
Do you have grant writers?
that right there. Right there.
Yeah,
This looking for money thing, it keeps me employed.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's a cottage
Job
industry.
saving.
Full-time job.
It's literally
Yeah,
job saving.
Yes.
You, the state or local officials, towns and villages, it's,
All of that.
okay, so next step?
yeah, next step.
Next
why
step,
don't
could
we-
you redefine what we've just talked about?
Sure.
Yes.
And we meet next month. If you could get it back to us even sooner, that way Steve could probably email it out to us so we could all look at it,
Sure.
absorb it, and then.
And even convene a meeting,
Yeah.
Yes, I'll get that to you.
You're not gonna be, with a CEO that does turnaround faster than Randy. So if you say a month, she'll get it to you, I don't
Well, we
know,
meet
72 hours.
We meet monthly, but
we could have a special meeting.
we could have a special meeting. If nothing else, Steve can get it out to us.
We'll
We can,
email it.
yeah, and then we
Yeah.
can absorb it and figure out, and even make some corrections if need,
Yes,
comments,
absolutely.
Yeah.
All that is valuable.
till we get the final draft.
Yeah, to the extent that you have, like, you went through this, just make it clear that it's Rockland specific.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So, whenever you resubmit, just make sure, because this
Absolutely.
doesn't do that, but in your resubmission, make sure that's clear.
They can work anywhere, but they have to be from Rockland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have, what councils do you use for, say, would you, like, if we're putting together Lino, who would Lino work with? Who do you normally?
Our attorney?
Yeah.
Well, we have a local attorney, Alden Smith, and then we have other attorneys, depending on, what we're
Depending
doing.
on
We have
what's
Bond and
okay.
Schoenig, depending on what the agreements are, so.
But the point is
Yeah.
one of your attorneys should talk to Lino eventually.
Yeah.
So they can,
Make sure the language
cover us,
is
yeah.
parity. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we
Thank
appreciate
you.
the opportunity
Opportunity.
to present our proposal to you, and we look forward to this partnership
Glad to
and
follow
helping
up.
people get meaningful employment.
Thank
you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Take care, bye-bye.
Bye, it was great seeing you.
Where's my purse?
Bye, Molly, good to see you.
Bye.
Seeing you.
Have a good rest of your meeting.
Bye-bye. Got it.
Okay, on this one?
Hit cancel.
Thank you so much.
Are we on or off?
We're on.
Yeah.
We were on when they were here. I don't know if we wanna.
Well, you can, yeah, for advice to counsel.
Oh, wait, this week comes back.
Thanks, okay.
What I would do, I would probably go through the rest of the agenda before adjournment, make the motion for executive session.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest.
Yeah, the rest of the agenda is very quick.
Okay.
If you can't adjourn, you gotta go to executive session during the meeting.
Okay.
So let's jump into low-key grill. There was nothing, any.
Everyone,
There's one there that
Yes.
is concerning. I agree. Which one is that?
they are brand new. They did apply for a waiver. It was their first month being inspected. They're getting for Carroll Concrete a waiver.
Who is, what job is that?
It's the warehouse.
ID too?
Oh, it's Novartis.
Yeah, Novartis.
Okay, I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those guys, yeah, they, just as an aside, we did a conference call with those guys. They
Yeah.
they have got this down like.
I wasn't sure who the project
Yep.
was. so
No,
I didn't
that's
write
fine.
They start to
Yep,
run
everyone
together.
behaved this month.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's that. Is there any old business? Anything that anybody wants to chat about? Just as an aside, the feedback was the breakfast we had last week was well received. Yeah, no, I know you were not available. And it was a very light agenda, by the way. Like, we just gave a little bit of a nickel overview of what we do, and it was more networking, connecting with bankers and realtors and some other folks, just, people we touch on a professional level. So it was well done, and they always do a good job at the NIAC Seaport. And hats off to Heidi and Bridget for doing almost 99.8% of the work.
Yeah,
Happen.
I'm gonna say 97.1. Bridget really handled all the planning of that.
It's funny, you forget how hard it is to throw an event, even an easy, like what seemingly seems like an easy one, a breakfast out there, but they did a great job, and with all support materials and things like that. So again, hats off to both of you. And again, we got well received. In fact, a couple of people said they wished, every meeting was like, somebody said it to somebody, I forget who it was.
Yeah, Zeno said that, right? Like, someone said it to you. In and out, to the point.
Good presentation, but the key thing was you enabled people to mingle and network, which sometimes you don't get to do these events. So that was key.
Okay. Moving on, financials. I'm just glancing at it myself. Most of these are just standard, in fact, all of them are our standard monthly, cost of doing business stuff. Nothing outstanding out there. Just looking to see. Okay. And that's it. If anybody had any comments about the financials, if not, someone wanted to make
I'll make the motion.
okay, financials in a second. Okay. And I'll just say all in favor of adopting the financials. Okay. And I can read the.
I will do the minutes after.
We got it. Okay, so we want to have a motion to go into executive session for legal counsel
I'll make the motion.
Okay. And a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, you want Okay.
So is it?
I'll make a motion to come out of
Wait, I'm not-
executive
we're not
session.
live yet.
A second? Oh,
I did.
There we are.
okay, Tim, you made a motion to come back into public session, second? Keller, okay.
All in favor?
Okay, with that said, let me quickly read. Okay, we call to order at 11:09. Action items the board considered and discussed the authorizing resolution for core leave. Motion was accepted. All in favor? New business. Giovanni presented, made a presentation requesting that the IDA partner with them on a variety of their programs. It would be workforce development. The board reviewed the low-key grill labor reports, discussion about some of the projects, and that was fine. There was no old business. The board reviewed and adopted the treasurer's report for August, and that's it. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Okay. And we're good. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
All right.
As always, we have,
Thank you.
yes.